It's the morning star drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Thursday, October 10th, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have a special Sermons in the Sky, QNA Thursday word study, and of course, commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? And yes, it is moving into the end of the week. It's already Thursday, and yes, it's the 10th. We're a third. We're a third through the week of October, the month of giving glory to God, and I hope that you guys have been doing a lot of that lately. Just yesterday, the volleyball department had an awesome time playing volleyball in Myeongdong, and we're just giving glory through it. It was such a fun time, guys. The girls, we had like different, like it was like a small mini tournament and stuff like that, but very, very fun. And it was chill, relaxed, and everything was about just calling on God and calling on the Holy Spirit. So it was fun. Like even for us, our first game, for some reason, we were getting crushed. The score was like 19-7 or something like that, and the game is only to 21. And we came back and won, as crazy as that sounds, right? So it was almost like God's miracle happened, and I was just really thankful to be able to experience that also. But yeah, I had an amazing time with the volleyball group, and then also other things that I had some other meetings and such, and I really I am enjoying my time even more now. Just the people I meet, the things I get to do. And they're just very dynamic and different. I'm meeting different countries. Like I'm meeting Singapore here. Of course, Singapore is not under the Western countries, but still they're English speaking, and I know a lot of the members there anyways. So it's really fun to meet the Singapore members. Man, I was meeting some Singapore members, and we were just talking, and this one guy is like, "Oh, you were talking," and then he's like, "Oh, how old are you?" And I was like, for me, I don't really care about my age, but then this was kind of shocking. He's like, "How old are you?" He's like, "Are you 40?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm 46." And then the guy says, "Oh, that's the same age as my dad." So I was just like, "Oh my gosh." And this guy's 20 years old. And I'm just like, "What? That's so crazy that I could be his dad." And this guy, this guy's taller than me, bigger, like everything else. But I'm just like, man, this I could be this guy's dad. If I had a baby, right? Like at the normal age that I guess a normal age you'd have a baby, this guy could be my son. And he's 20, and I'm just like, that's so crazy. But yeah, that was kind of a funny thing that, just a funny conversation, but having a great and awesome time. Guys, don't forget, it's Q&A Thursday every single week, which is today and every week, so get those questions ready. Send it to me whenever you can. And if you haven't yet, leave a like and comment for today's video. Click that like button, leave a comment, or anything you'd like to support this community. I'm just super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So let's get up and support each other each and every day. This week's Sunday message title is, yes, I got it wrong on Monday. I'm very, very sorry. Know the spirit and soul and be a spiritual person. Great message. Awesome Wednesday message last night. Hope you guys enjoyed that too. So, you know what? Before I get into a little bit deep into all the things that I've been doing over the last day, I got a cool joke for you guys, okay? So it's pretty funny, okay? So it's like, this comedian, I heard it from a comedian. It's really funny. He said, "Do you know 30,000 people in America die from guns? So, that kind of means that, maybe we should get rid of our guns." And then he says, "But did you know that 55,000 people in America die from car crashes? So that means we need to get rid of our Asians." I don't know. Was that funny, guys? I thought it was funny. Yeah, there is that, what do you call it? There is that stereotype. And it's not just Asian. Like, Asians in generals, and then it was like Asian women drivers is even worse. That's just a stereotype, guys. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying it's the stereotype. I'm also saying that in most cases it's probably true. I'm just kind of kidding, not really, but for the sake of my health and for the hate mail that I'll be getting, I'll say that I am just joking. Either way, so that is my joke of the day. Hope it's something that gave you a smile. Some of you might be a little bit angry, but you may agree at the same time too, but still. Yeah, that's just what I wanted to say. So cool things going to happen today, guys. I am going to be doing my first Wolmyeongdong tour, and I'll be doing it for the Europeans a little bit later, around 8 a.m. So I'm really, really excited about that. Now, you might think to yourself is like, oh, Pastor Sky, do you really know the place as well? And honestly, I don't. I don't know the place as well. But what do you call it? The head or the director of Korean HQ, or basically Providence HQ, he is also the person who's in charge of all of Wolmyeongdong, just making sure everything's being developed from the rocks and the trees, everything's being maintained and managed too, right? And the last couple of times I've heard him speak to different countries, the one thing he says, and this is interesting because he keeps looking at me and he's like, dude. No, he doesn't say dude, but he's like, dude. No, I'm not dude. Sorry, why do I keep saying dude? But I'm like, he's like, hey, hey, Sky, you should, have you been around, like, not the inside of Wolmyeongdong where everyone sees? Have you been towards the outskirts of it, right? And I was like, well, I went to the, like, Holy Spirit place. He's like, do you know where Huekgol is? I was like, oh, I don't know exactly where it is. Like, do you know where the Cheetah Square, or do you know this? I was like, no, not really. So he actually, I told you about this last week, but on last Sunday, so a week ago, we got a tour with the American team, and we had a 4.5-hour tour right after Sunday service, right? So we went everywhere, but of course, 4.5 hours is a long time. You can't remember everything, right? I don't remember everything. And yesterday, once again, he met with the Europeans, and he's like, there's a huge difference between like just listening to things that Sunstream talks about in the message, and then actually seeing it for yourself. And when you listen to Sunstream during the message and he talks about this tree or that rock, like, you've been there before, so you know exactly what it's like. That's something that you guys need to learn also. It's not so much about, you're going to have the tour guides that give you the really detailed stories and such, but he's like, but sometimes it's just about knowing what's out there. That when Sunseem says, oh, do you know this tree? Oh, do you know this? And once he says that, you'll be like, oh, yeah, I know this. Oh, yeah, I know this too. You know what I mean? So when I heard him talk about this, I was like, oh, sometimes it's not so much about knowing every single story, but sometimes we just need like a general idea of where everything is. And when Sunseem talks about it, we'll be like, yeah, I've been there. Ooh, I know that place, right? So yesterday when the director was like talking and he's talking to the Europeans, and he's like, oh, you should take them on the outskirts. The place that you went to last time, Scott. I was like, oh yeah. And then, for me, I'm kind of like, yeah, I'll do, yeah, all right, cool, I'll do it, right? And this was at like 2 p.m. And the other vice director or assistant director, whatever you call it, next to me says, hey, you should take him tomorrow. And I was like, what? And I looked at her, I was like, oh my gosh. And she looks at me smiling, and I'm like, uh-oh. And then the director of HQ says, yeah, good idea. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it's like at 8 a.m. So I was like going, geez, I don't think I know it very clearly. Like, I don't even know the path. So the first thing I did was I was like, okay, I don't know the path very well. So what I'm going to do is, that meeting ended around 2. I went to go get some lunch, and then I went straight to Wolmyeongdong to go look at the path to try to look for the path and the places I need to take these people the next morning, right? And, I need to really know where I'm going so I'm not misleading these people and stuff too. So it's a kind of a basic tour of the outskirts, right? Just to see where things are. And yesterday afternoon, I went to go check it out. And it was super interesting because, I just did that course the week before. But, if you only do it once, you don't really know. So I followed the path that I remembered. And of course, as I'm walking, I see these small landmarks like, oh yeah, I remember this spot. Oh, I remember this spot too. And then there's this one point I was like, oh, I have no idea where to go next. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, do I go straight? Am I going too far? Did I miss something? And then as I'm thinking about what to do, all of a sudden there's like a baby squirrel that appears next to me, like close to me. I would say within 2 feet. I was like, oh. And the baby squirrel is like stopped and is kind of like just right in front of me. I was like, oh, I was about to take out my phone. And then I was like talking to the squirrel like, hey, you know the direction? And then it starts running towards like another place. So I was like, oh, I guess this is right. So I started, walking towards that path, going even further. And I was like, wow, maybe this is a sign. I got to follow this squirrel. And I kept going that certain direction. And then I found another landmark that I was like, oh, I remember this spot. And then I found another path. I was like, oh, I remember this path too. And I kept going down. But there came a point I was like, am I walking too far? And I started to doubt. I was like, wait, am I really in the right place? And I decided to walk all the way back up because I thought I missed a turn. And I walk all the way back up. And when I get to that point up there, I see the baby squirrel again. And I was like, is this right? And like I couldn't figure it out. But then I turned around and then I saw someone that I knew. Like a Korean bro. I was like, oh, and I was like, hey, where do I find this place? They're like, oh, just go down there. And it was the exact same path I was going down. I just didn't go far enough. Right? So they're like, oh, yeah, keep going down. You'll go over this small hill, this, and you'll find the place. They're like, oh, okay, I got it. And I was going the right direction, right? So then I went back down the hill with confidence because I know that's the right path now. And, I was realizing like about myself after this, I was kind of going on that path. I was like, man, sometimes you're on the right path, but when you kind of go through these doubts or these difficulties or hardships, you begin to become unsure, like, am I really on the right path? And then, of course, God sends a squirrel to tell me I'm on the right path. But then even when I saw the squirrel and taking me on the right path, I still had some doubts in my heart. And finally, I actually found a person to ask, and they showed me I was going the right way. And then, of course, I was more confident. And I realized it's like, wow. So, there is the signs that God gives us all in life, right? There's these signs here. You'll see clouds. You see natural revelations. You'll see this and that. Sometimes you get a Bible verse that pops up. All these things are there, and it's God showing us those signs. However, there is only one sign that will give us the greatest and ultimate confidence. And what is that? It is the person that God has sent, right? And I realize that because at the end, I met an actual person who can speak the same language and give me clear words of it's right there over the hill, just go that way. And I easily found it. And I realized this is how great it is to have the person that God has sent. We can have the squirrel come out. We can have the trees blowing in a direction. We can have, all these other different signs, something in my heart all popping up. But there will never be a greater sign than the one that God has sent. A person who speaks the same language, who knows, who is a human being, right? So that was really cool. And it was like, man, there's going to come times when we're going to be swayed by our own hearts. And Satan tries to make us doubt the path that we're on, even though it's the right path. But in the end, it all comes down to the words given by the one that God has sent, an actual human, the body of the Lord, the body of the one that Jesus' Spirit is actually using. So I had that great experience, and it was a good hour and a half of me just kind of looking around, finding the place, and I eventually found all the places that I was looking for, and I was very, very happy about this too. Like I was able to, I'm very confident for today's 8 a.m. mini tour. It's going to be like an hour and a half. And of course, it's not for massive details. It's more about getting the, it's more about just seeing the points and understanding what Sunseem's actually talking about. So I am very excited and happy about this, okay? So yeah, that's, guys, pray for me. I'm going to be doing my first kind of a what do you call it, a general tour for the members here. And I think the more and more I do it, the more I'm going to get better and understand more too, right? So yeah, I've been here for 9 weeks now. I've been in Wolmyeongdong for just basically in Korea in my mission for 9 weeks, which is quite exciting, right? So I've passed the 2-month mark. I'm very, very happy with all the things that have happened. And yes, there was a learning curve. Yes, there are things that, I'm still learning as I go. Yes, there's mistakes that I make too, but great 9 weeks already, right? And I would say there's a couple things that I realized while being here in Wolmyeongdong, okay? There's a couple things that I get to notice and see, right? First thing is, like when I go to services, in Wolmyeongdong, it is the center of Providence. Like if you want to see how a service is supposed to be, this is the place. And one of the things that is really inspiring and moving for me, and it makes me look at it in such a different way, is Sunseem's songs. Every song is Sunseem's song, right? All of them. But the difference is everyone knows them and everyone is just praising with these songs, right? With the songs of the one that God has sent. It's almost like Sunseem's talking about in the messages where Sunseem said, hey, Jesus, if you just left one painting, do you know how it would be the most valuable painting ever? And I think it would be true. All the greatest paintings are religious paintings from Christianity, from the Renaissance times. All the music, it's the greatest ones are coming from the time where they loved God the most. And imagine if all the people in the world found out that Jesus left a painting for everyone. Do you know how much that painting would be worth? And in the same way, imagine if Jesus left a song. You know what I mean? If Jesus left a song for everyone. But we don't have just a song. We have so many songs, like hundreds of songs from the person that God has sent. Man, when I hear the Sunseem songs, and I hear how everyone praises those songs, it makes me want to praise them even more. It makes me think of the lyrics, even though it's in Korean. It makes me want to I gotta learn this. The atmosphere is so amazing when there is this praise of Sunseem songs. And I know that everyone, we love Sunseem songs and such. And sometimes, I know this is true too, and it's not just in the Western countries, but also in Korea. Some people find Sunseem songs very, very difficult, right? And some people may not feel a lot from the songs. But one thing I am 100% certain of, 100%, no matter what anyone says, these songs made from Sunseem in the future are going to be the greatest songs. They will be. It's going to be something that when we look at it in the future, even after we die, it's gonna be so crazy powerful. Everyone's going to be clamoring over these songs and wanting to learn these songs. Even musicians are like, we're bored of these 4-chord songs that Christianity has, but Sunseem songs are complicated. They're intricate. They're just, it's amazing when I hear musicians talk about Sunseem songs. But we are like the early adapters. Even though the world will look at us and say, oh, these songs are weird. But for us, we have to be those that have the pride in these songs. We have to be the ones that know these songs inside out. We have to be the ones that know the stories behind it. We have to be the ones that are like, whoa, this is a song that Sunseem made. Wow, this is so amazing. And look, listen to these lyrics. It's already a sermon itself kind of thing, right? And I would say is, like, one of the things that people might say is like, oh, guess what? There's not, like, it's hard in other languages to translate all of Sunseem songs. It's hard, right? And to translate them, to make it musical, it's a little bit difficult, right? But the one thing I will tell you is this. When I see what Sunseem's attitude is like when it comes to praise, it's not about, for Sunseem, when you see how Sunseem prays, and you're going to listen to this in Thoughts on Praise, which is every Wednesday. We just had the second episode from yesterday's podcast. There is something, when you hear Sunseem praise, Sunseem talks about, remember the song, My Joy and My Hope? Da 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 da. The Lord who is my source of joy and hope. The Lord who has become my life. We all know that song, right? But what does Sunseem say? Sunseem said he sang that song 1,000 times over and over and over until he became the owner of that song. And I think that's the biggest difference between us and Sunseem. Like, we're going to be the ones that are going to be like, oh, all right, come on, we sang it 3 times already. Do we have to sing this every week? Oh, come on, Sunseem, we heard about this rock story 7 weeks in a row. Do we have to keep hearing about this rock story? That's the difference between us and Sunseem. Sunseem doesn't do it for us. Sunseem does it because he's so thankful to God. He does it because he's so moved by the lyrics. He's at a different level. And that's the level that we need to reach, right? Like Sunseem, we have to be at that where even if that we may only have one song from Sunseem, that's a song we should sing imagine if we had only one song, that would be a song we should be singing every single day. The only song that the person that God has sent has written, that should be the song that we should sing every day without hesitation. It's that valuable and that big, right? So it's really, really amazing and powerful, and I think it's something that we can, I think it's something that we need to learn. And not be like, oh, why is it like this? It's more like, hey, we got to learn the mentality of Sunseem. And when I'm here in Wolmyeongdong, and I'm here at the Wolmyeongdong church, oh, it's different. It's so different. The choir is crazy. It really is. And when I look, I know like a lot of the people in the choir, and man, these people in the choir, they all used to be pastors. They all used to be this and that. I'm just like, wow, it's so nuts. Like how it actually works and stuff, right? So I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, this is something that I look at, and it is the way that we should be. It's the prime example. It's the standard church, right? And if we want to ever learn how to run a church or to see how it is, it's the way to do it. Like, I know that Sunseem has talked about this before, but think about this very carefully. Wolmyeongdong is the prime church. And of course, there are some things that we can't really follow. Like, for instance, you're not going to take your shoes off. Just like we do in the Wolmyeongdong church, we're not going to do that, right? In most cases, that's mainly because it's Wolmyeongdong. But there is something that you'll notice very, very interesting is you will always see that the pulpit is not at the center stage. It's off right. And remember what Sunseem said. Sunseem said the reason why the pulpit is not in the center, it's a little bit off right, Because the pulpit should not cover God's view. It should not cover God's seat. God's seat should be seen. And that's why it's like that in Mormondom. And that's something we have to look at as like, oh, that's interesting. This is the way the Standard Church is actually doing it, right? And these are all things that we have to look at and think to ourselves too is, yeah, there's a lot of things that we can learn. Yes, some things says, oh, don't worry about it. That you don't have to worry about, right? However, there are some things we look at and we say, ooh, I wonder why they have the pulpit off right? And it's because in this church, Sunseem's the one giving them the constant coaching all the time. I was talking to the head leader of the Women's Church, and I was asking her questions too, and she said there was a point. Remember when Sunseem was out from 2018 to 2022, right? She said that after every service, Sunseem would coach about service constantly. And this pastor has been the head leader for 6 years at the Women's Church, which I think is incredible because most people are not going to do it, are only doing it for 3 years. She's there for 6 years, and I think that's incredible at the main church, right? So when I was listening to some of the things she was saying, like the coaching she was getting, I was like, wow. But that was one of the things she was talking about is that, yeah, you'll notice that the pulpit's not in the center. It's off right. Because it's not, you're not supposed to cover God's chair. I was like, wow. So you'll have God's chair, and then when you're facing the stage, you see to the left is the Holy Spirit's chair, and the pulpit is basically covering like the Holy Sunseem's chair and stuff like that too, right? And the person who's preaching. Yeah, like there's a bunch of stuff that Sunseem gave coaching on. Like there's another thing. What was another thing is? People who are on stage should not be wearing regular shoes. Yeah, not people who are in the audience, right? It's the people on stage. So, they shouldn't be wearing regular shoes. So the people doing praise, the people who are standing at the front, they shouldn't be wearing regular shoes. They should have special shoes or the nicer slips or things that are set aside only for the stage or only for the people who are standing at the front. And Sunseem would be giving all these different coaching constantly. And I can't remember all of it off the top of my head, but there's a bunch of stuff that I was listening to. I was like, wow, can you imagine that after every service, Sunseem would call and coach you? Nope, not like that. Nope, not like that either. Nope, not like that either. Can you imagine that? Right? So when I saw this, I was just like, whoa, that's pretty intense. And it's awesome to hear these different types of coaching. I think that's something that we have to recognize too is how Sunseem wants the service to be. Not what he wants, what he knows how God likes it. Right? So that's one of the things I look at and say, wow, I really, really, I learned a lot from the service itself. The second thing that I just love being here is basically Woyondong. I'll tell you this, just being in God's temple, you enjoy, but just the fact that you're here, you are going to know and understand as time goes on. Because, Sunseem says constantly, the Woyondong is symbolic of not just God, but the man of mission and also the brides. We learn the stories. We hear bits and pieces here and there. We learn about the mentality. We learn about the heart of the one that is sent. And it's so different because it's real. I'm actually, right after service, Sunseem talks about it. I walk outside and I see it. Oh, that's what he was talking about, right? Every story that Sunseem talks, almost all of it is about Woyondong. It's a symbol for all of us to learn from. And that's why Sunseem says that we can evangelize. We can learn about him through Woyondong. We can learn about ourselves through it too. So that was something that I looked at and I was like, man, it's just awesome to just constantly be here. I'm not going to be on every single tour. However, when I'm joining it, I get to hear this story. I get to hear that story. The people who are giving the testimonies, the doctor, Pastor Shinbi, like all these people, I hear all these things like, wow, that's incredible kind of thing, right? So this is a thing that I look at, and I'm very grateful and thankful that I am in this area. Great fresh air, right? Being able to look and see and enjoy all the things that God is doing through it too. But very, very thankful, very grateful for it too, right? Either way. So yeah, that's something that I hope that many of you will be able to come as often as possible or learn as much as you can. And I'm going to be doing my best to not to learn every single story. I don't think that's going to be my role, but at least I'll have the role to take people around. Right? I'll have the role to take people around so that they can see, so that, they can get like a basic view of the stuff that you cannot see right in front of your face, that thing on the outskirts, right? So I am looking forward to seeing more and more of this also, and I hope that I will be able to learn it well enough to be able to take foreigners on this outskirts tour, which is not going to be super detailed, but it's going to be, at least you'll know, oh, that's where that is. Oh, that's where this is too, kind of thing. Okay? So, yeah. There's one thing I'm really excited about, because I told you guys today that we have a special sermon to this guy, and it's actually not a sermon. Okay? So, there is Pre-Pastor Garrett. And if you guys don't know who he is, he's one of the assistant leaders at the church in New York. This guy is incredibly intelligent. And I asked him this about a month ago. I was like, hey, I said something on my podcast, and all the Americans were like, no, it's not like this. How dare you talk about? I was like, whoa, I'm like, chill out. I'm totally not talking about I'm talking about it in general. And they're like, oh, really? And I thought to myself, is like, man, all these people are defending this leaders program that's been made, and Pre-Pastor Garrett's one of the people that actually made the system, the program. And I was like, hey, tell me what this program is about. I would love to hear it, and I think it would be inspiring for other countries to learn from too, right? Like, I want to know what the leaders program you have in AP, American Providence. What's the philosophy behind it? What's the concept behind it too? What makes it different than the regular programs we've done in the past, right? And the one thing that's really cool about American Providence is they actually have a research and development department in HQ, right? And they basically have these professionals running it, and they're able to do this. So I was just really happy and thankful. And it was something that I looked at. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. So he sent me this 10-minute audio explaining how they do their leadership program. I am super excited about this one. So please, guys, take a look at it. It's going to be, take a listen to it. It's Pre-Pastor Garrett in New York. He's also research and development for headquarters of American Providence. I think you guys will really, really enjoy this. Either way. Okay, so, but of course, we also have QNA Thursday. A couple questions here. So before we get into it, let's get into the first music break of the day.
Just like the rest, I walked in death, not knowing the value of a single breath. My pride was the biggest prize I had to protect, walking around high and mighty, sticking out my chest. Calling the shots like I know what's best, living how I like, but I piled up a debt. Outside's alive and aware the inside is dead, and suddenly truth shine just like the dawn. All things in life I knew 0%, then I realized how far I was gone. Wasn't right about anything, I was dead wrong. Everything thought to be reality was a fallacy. My life wasn't great, it was a tragedy. All I knew was fake, I thought I'm losing my sanity. All the while gazing at me was the Trinity, looking with love, grace, and mercy. Patiently working consistently with me, and eventually brought me to the new history. I learned about someone new whom they used. He worked with heaven and I learned his stories. He is living proof that the Bible's words are true. On the scene at 15, splitting every single seam. God's words flow from him like he's a stream. preaching to the point that even his throat would bleed. The most impressive person I have ever seen, him speaking the truth revealed everything to me. Parables, holy son, soul entity, spiritual universe. Frankly, I don't think he's done. He's taught me 1,000 tons, too much for a single verse. This is so amazing to the point I may burst. I'm sure he's the one the Bible said would come. Where else would this earth-shattering word come from? Then I really realized he is the Messiah, sent to the world and raise humanity a level higher. Didn't come to destroy, but the word is the fire. Amen to the very end, my faith won't expire. He's been going 79 years and hasn't tired. Due to that condition, the greatest blessing we've acquired. Between him and the Trinity, that time was finally captured. I'm sure now that they got their bride, nothing can match her. Rapture, that's what we received. Was evangelized, lectured, managed, now I believe. Never knew this was something I could achieve. Your blessings really flow endlessly. I promise you, I'll never leave. So I'll stay with you to the death of me. With you, I've fulfilled my destiny. Now I'll reboot, give you the best of me. Offering my youth, running even faster. For me and so many, you're not just a pastor. You're the shepherd over all these pastures. King of kings, Lord of lords, that's for sure. We're a perfect match, a hand and a glove. The atmosphere in the air is full of love. Came from above to hold the banquet. So I'll GGG eternally for 316. Just cause I was swept into the net of the word, heard and learned, doesn't mean it's over yet. I really need to look at myself and reflect, line up against God's perfect law and check. All my flaws need to be resolved. Be bold to slanderers when I try to call. Like him, I'm thankful for tribulations, cause I didn't fall. With the rapture, I'm standing tall. The love they give is truly priceless. If I'm not with the Lord, life enters crisis. Without him, I'm a ship that's wrecked to pieces. So I'll always eat the word. Box of Reese's, stick to him, red blood cell and Reese's. I praise God for sending son, sing him, and Jesus. He had a plan for them before they were a fetus, to reveal to the world heaven's deep secrets. With his name, bring the pain, breaking Satan's noses. With the Lord's condition, let's show him a comatosis. While looking at heaven, never losing focus, conversing in our thoughts every single moment. Then our spiritual rapture will never be stolen. If you only see strife, come see what peace is. If you want to know heaven, come and see this. If life were an essay, this is the thesis. Rapture, that's what we received. Was evangelized, lectured, managed, now I believe. Never knew this was something I could achieve. Your blessings really flow endlessly. I promise you, I'll never leave. So I'll stay with you to the death of me. With you, I've fulfilled my destiny. Now I'll reboot, give you the best of me. Offering my youth, running even faster. For me and so many, you're not just a pastor. You're the shepherd over all these pastures. King of kings, Lord of lords, that's for sure. We're a perfect match, a hand and a glove. The atmosphere in the air is full of love. Came from above to hold the banquet. So I'll GGG eternally for 316. Remember, this wasn't given for free, so always hear the word and do good deeds. Praising those that saved us is an amazing thing, and live with them in love. 1 John 3:18. Be like him, always run on God's team. If you live like him, you'll surely succeed. Believe him, absolutely, and gotta let you pass. If you want the greatest salvation, walk this only path.
All right, so let's get into today's QNA Thursday. And we have two really, really good questions. And the first one is going to talk about yoga, right? So people believe that yoga in its traditional form is inherently connected to Hinduism and worships Hindu gods. So Christians sometimes see it as a Trojan horse for idol worship. Some Christians and others who practice yoga argue that they can separate the physical poses from their original Hindu context and use yoga as a form of exercise and spiritual practice without worshiping Hindu gods. Now, they may incorporate Christian teachings or prayers into their yoga practice. And this person wrote, from my point of view, Colossians chapter 2, verse 16 to 23 comes to mind, and how Sunsim has talked about idol worship. And it convinces me that the latter is correct. What are your thoughts based on what Sunsim has said? Okay, so for those of you guys who don't know, Colossians 2:16 says, "Do not let anyone judge you by what you eat or drink, or with regards to a religious festival, a new moon celebration, or a Sabbath day. These are a shadow of the things that were to come. The reality, however, is found in Christ. Do not let anyone who delights in false humility and the worship of angels disqualify you. Such a person also goes into great detail about what they've seen. They are puffed up with idle notions by their unspiritual mind. They have lost connection with the head. Okay, so great verse to reference too. So what do I say? Well, I kind of agree. And if I were to give a good quote that I heard, I think this is something that's that should come to mind for us can Christians practice yoga? And I would say yes, but only if you've actually thought about what you're doing, right? You're kind of like, well, what does that mean? And I'm like, well, you know what? I actually think even the opposite of when it's yoga, sometimes we've never talked about it. It's not really a massive thing that we're like, oh, is this right or wrong? And I do believe that, Providence we've reached a level where it's more about how we believe, right? So I would agree that yoga is fine unless you are literally using it to worship Hindu gods, which I don't think anyone in Providence does. And I think one of the ways that we can look at, like, there's another verse that I would use, which is, I believe it's in the book of Romans, I think. I think it's the book of Romans, right? Romans chapter 14, verses 1 to 23 is very, very similar too. As Colossians 2, it says, as for the one who is weak in faith, welcome him, but not to quarrel over opinions. One person believes that he may eat anything, while the weak person eats only vegetables. Let not the one who eats despise the one who abstains, and let not the one who abstains pass judgment on the one who eats, for God has welcomed him. Right? For who are you to pass judgment on the servant of another? Right? So, this is where it came to the new rules, where Jesus is like, go in New Testament, go ahead and eat pork. Not a big deal. Right? Where everyone in the Old Testament is like, oh, you cannot eat, you cannot do this, you cannot do that kind of thing. You can't eat pork and stuff, right? So, basically they're saying, hey, to one person, they're going to be strong enough to eat anything, right? Because you need strength to eat pork, which was considered terrible and bad in the Old Testament time. You need strength to go and actually eat it. And don't look down on the one who doesn't, or don't look down on the one who does, right? You don't need to pass judgment. We know the rules. If you don't feel comfortable, you don't feel comfortable, it's fine, right? And I would say it's going to be the exact same thing as yoga. Yoga, if we were to take a look at how important, like what we learn in Providence, it's about the spiritual, which Sunstein even says kind of something even more not crazier, sorry, but one of the things that Sunstein would talk about is, well, if you pray and you don't pray with a sincere, earnest heart, God's not going to listen, which means that even when you do something that is Providence, even if you go to pre-dawn, even if you listen to the words of the new time period, but you don't listen to it well, you're not going to gain anything from it. God's not going to accept that prayer, which means that even things that are Providence, but you don't do it properly, it doesn't really count, right? It's about the spiritual, which we could take that and say, well, what about the things that are like, some people can, they'll do yoga because it's good for stretching. It's good for their body, whatever it is, right? And some people, they are able to, just reasonably just here for exercise, right? We've reached the level where our heart, we know it's purely for exercise. Our heart is not there to worship Hindu gods and such. And we've reached a level where we're not going to be influenced by a yoga pose. And all of a sudden people are going to be like, oh no, now the Hindu spirit has taken over me. Like, do you really think, would you really say that because you do a certain pose in yoga, that means you worship Hindu gods and you take the entire belief system with it? And I'd be like, no way, that makes no sense. Because if that's the case, then just being a Sunday Christian means you're a true Christian because you're doing the actions of a Christian. And the answer is no, that doesn't make sense either. Right? We're at a level that's much different. We're at a mature phase of history, and I hope it's something that it'll allow us to understand it at a much different level too, right? So I would, I wouldn't worry about, and don't judge others for doing it, or don't judge others that they're not strong enough to do it. It's not for us to judge, right? And in the end, even if someone looks down on you for that, who cares? Why? Because they're not going to be the one that judges you in the end anyways, right? So that's what I would say about yoga, right? To each their own. If you're not comfortable with it, then you're not comfortable with it, then don't do it, right? Because then you're going to go against your own conscience where you're not comfortable anyways. Why would you do it, right? So I would say, that's how I would answer it for yoga. Another interesting question. I kind of touched on this the other week too. It's about people in Providence who have Christian friends, which means most likely these people are usually they're coming from the former faith and come into this history, right? And then they get when they share about Providence teachings, the Christian friends will ask these questions that you can't answer, and it makes you doubt because you can't answer them, right? And I touched on this a little bit last week, and the first thing I would say is don't get caught up in I have to answer every question, right? Now, there are some questions you should be able to answer, like resurrection and stuff. However, that's why I said last week, if you can't answer, you got to be able to answer it really well. Like you need to learn the word over and over and over again until it sticks so deeply in your head you can answer whenever someone tells you, right? So, that's why I would say learn the word really well. Then you'll be confident what you know. You'll understand. And then you'll be even more firm in your faith and you won't shake, right? Now, when you reach an even higher level of maturity in Providence, spiritually, I would say you will realize that it doesn't matter. You don't need to answer every question. You just don't. Right? As long as you have the core, you know the person that God has sent, that's like the main thing. That's bigger than all other things, right? That's the thing that you should have that absolute faith in. All the other things, it's not big of a deal. You'll learn it later in heaven anyways, right? And I would say that I noticed more people who came from Christianity who struggle with this because they came to Providence, they have a ton of Christian friends, they ask tons of questions to them and such, and they doubt when they can't answer the questions, right? Like, oh my gosh, shouldn't I know this kind of thing? Shouldn't we have the answer? And that's why I say they'll get into the trap of feeling that because you're in Providence, you have to answer every little question in the Bible. And the answer is you don't, right? And don't get caught into that trap. And one thing I do say is when you start to doubt Providence, the one thing I do say is this, because when people start to doubt Providence, they will bring up stuff like, oh, how come we can't answer this question? And I would say to them, neither can Christianity. And I would say this, the measure you use on Providence, of why you believe in Providence, don't just use it. You should be using that same measure on Christianity. And I'll tell you this, as someone who comes from Christianity, the amount of teaching of the Bible to prove to me that Jesus is Messiah is so small. What did it take for me to come to Christianity? Not much. It was about the story of Jesus dying on the cross and then me receiving the Holy Spirit, right? So a lot of it was very, very spiritual, and it was enough. It's enough for me to believe in Jesus, and that even when people start to give me questions that I can't answer, I'm okay with it because it's enough for me to know that Jesus is the Messiah, right? So I think it's something that we have to understand really well. And I would say, don't feel like you have to answer. You don't need to answer every single question. And if you can't answer it, it's okay. What you should do is the exact same thing that other people do with me and their leaders is, hey, Pastor, how would you answer this question? Right? But you don't have to feel like panicky, like, oh my gosh, I can't answer this question. Oh my gosh, oh, is this really the history of God or not? No, you don't have to. It's like, oh, I would be very cool with it, like going, you know what? I know there's an answer to this. I've heard the answer before, but I just, I don't know it very well. Let me talk to my pastor and I'll see if I can get an answer for this or an answer for this or this, right? So I would say that, be cool about it, be calm. You can't answer it, go ask a leader. That's what Christians do too. When they can't figure it out, they'll go ask their leaders, right? It's like, be calm. Oh, that's a great question. You know what? I'm going to ask my pastor about this. My pastor's really good with these questions and such. So let me go ask my pastor about this, or let me ask my pastor about that type of thing, right? And I think that's like the best way, a great way to do it, right? Either way. So yeah, that's kind of how I would answer those two questions, right? And that's those are the only two questions for today's Q&A Thursday. Two questions, but great questions too. If you have any other questions, go ahead and send them to me. Would love to help you out with those questions too. Okay. So yeah, before we get into a very exciting, we get to talk. We get Pre-Pastor Garrett, who's going to be explaining to us about the American Providence Leadership Program. I am looking forward to this also, and I'm sure that many other countries can learn from this too. So, but before we get into that, let's get into the last music break of the day.
2023. We've all come a long way. Many different stories, but we're all on the same journey. Many ups and downs, but we're all still around. Many lessons, but each one came with a blessing. Let's not forget for where we come from when we make this confession. Some people just want to watch the world burn. As for you and I, let's set ourselves on fire, shine a light so bright that will make the people say, burning life, Look at the flames in my eyes, watch it burn, but don't stare too long, you might lose your sight. Some people gunning for our downfall, but they'll never see our demise. Burning life. Who's the one? I'm the one, he's the one. Are you the one? No, we're the ones who keep the fire going till the day we die, till they see the light, make it bright, till we hear the people say, born sinner, never could be iller. No, I'm back from the dead, yeah, the Lord is my healer. I took the red pill, that's why I call him teacher. When you learn about the spirit, oh, there ain't nothing realer. The one you learn from determines your entire destiny. Learn from the one who taught about eternity. Cloud craving, paper chasing, the joy is only temporary. I don't wanna do the same thing, so I hard to count the vanity. I keep my eyes on the prize, I'll never sell my soul to the devil in disguise. With both hands on each side, I'm holding on to dear life. I keep my guard up, never back down. When it goes down, I call on the Christ. Spiritual battle, answer the call. It's Call of Duty, modern warfare, put the armor of God. They're fighting Lucy with a rock, I got atomic bombs. Love the Lord your God and know your brothers once the demons fall. Don't be deceived, know who the ops is. Keep the unity and peace, go far way across this. Came to preach the word of God like I'm born in Tarsus. Here to testify the things I've seen on road to Damascus. He's the real deal, the real thing, be glad you heard the King's speech. Blessed are those who reach the end and get to hear the Lord speak. GODs, POC, we fulfilled everything. Burning life, kerosene, burning life, legacy.
You will never see me stop in the future. The life that fulfills God's will continue. Everyone thinks I'm unfortunate because I go through suffering. But inside of me it's different. Because I walk the path of eternal life.
Burning life, Look at the flames in my eyes, watch it burn, but don't stare too long, you might lose your sight. Some people gunning for our downfall, but they'll never see our demise. Burning life, who's the one? I'm the one, he's the one. Are you the one? No, we're the ones who keep the fire going till the day we die, till they see the light, make it bright, till we hear the people say,
like Mary poured out her perfume on Jesus' feet, I must pour out my heart, mind, and love on the one who saved me.
Okay, so let's get into our final segment, and I am very much looking forward to this. This is Pre-Pastor Garrett over there in New York, and he's going to talk to us today about the American Providence Leaders Program and how they run it and why it's so different and why so many people are defending it, even though I did not say anything against them. Right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please welcome Pre-Pastor Garrett from New York. He's assistant leader there and also running as R&D for American Providence headquarters. This is going to be explanation of the American Providence Leaders Training Program.
Yeah, so I'd like to comment a little bit about what we're doing in the AP Leadership Program. Perhaps this might be useful to others considering how to run their program or just for reference in other ways. I'm running this through Pastor Garrett. I'm running this together with Pastor Nathan from AP, and we have a lot of unique things to consider on how best to actually run the program here in AP that serves our purposes, or at least serves our members for the purposes set out by the heavens. So first thing is that our demographics are widely varying. We have people that have been in Providence for just over a year. all the way to people who've been in Providence for 25, 30 years that actually wanted to join the program. Another thing is we have members spread out across 6 different time zones, and a couple of members who are actually, a handful of members which are actually overseas during a good portion of this whole program. And so this is always something you have to consider in AP. It's not something new, but definitely we had to think about how can we allow everyone to get the best possible experience learning from Sensing how to be a leader. So the underlying philosophy, for the whole program is we just want to highlight and accentuate the content that Sensing has already given. Through all of these lectures, Sensing gives amazing, world-class leadership material, something that people can study and make themselves into amazing leaders as much as they remember it, take action on it, and make it a reality. And so, building the whole program around trying to make it so that these lectures are best put into practice by the people participating, that's where we focused on. So to do that, there's a number of adjustments that we made according to our country's situation, collaborating with headquarters and all the head leaders across American Providence, communicating with them quite a lot, getting their feedback and showing them everything that we're doing so that they also can work together with us even when we're not directly communicating about what to do. So first of all, the program is separated into 2 tracks. There's track 1 for those who want to be more hands-on, want to do more practical experience, and also watch the lectures and also work in a group. And then there's track 2, people who already have various missions, have quite a lot of experience in leadership, but still want to listen to the lectures and on their own time and in their own way carry out the practical aspect of the course through the daily actions and through their own putting the word to practice. Okay, so for track 2, those that just listen to the lectures, and for track 1, every time we listen to the lectures, all participants are required to RSVP ahead of time. They are required to attend on Zoom on 2 different times during a Saturday. So they have to actually plan their time in advance. And then after playing the lectures, they have to fill out a quiz. The quiz that is for that content is about 5 to 6 questions. They're not difficult questions, in my opinion, but they help those who are learning to pay attention, take some notes, and recall also what they've learned and reflect on their life through even just a short quiz like this. And so this helps everybody, remain accountable to actually listening to the lectures that they signed up to actually listen to. And another thing that we do is before these lectures, Pastor Nathan or myself, we have a quick time of prayer, praise, and we give an introductory message to help those who are listening remember that this is not just another message. This is something that Sensei said. I'm not going to play this for everybody. I This is something that I want you to control and allow those who really want to be leaders uh, for the heavens, want to run in that way, give it only to them. And so those people, we want to keep the value of what they're learning. And so through these preparatory messages, we talk a little bit about what Sunseem will talk about for the day, testify for who Sunseem is, and also, encourage those who are participating to keep going and to keep making themselves even over just a relatively short 6-month period. So that's how we actually run, both tracks, actually listen to the lectures, but then for track 1, something we talked about practical experience and also talked about bringing in experts for lecturing. So for the track 1, there's a couple of different things. Is first of all, they're all arranged in groups of about 6 to 7 people. Within that group, they are all one effective group accountability partner, and they record their daily actions in a spreadsheet across their team. And at the end of the program, those who do well as a team and those who do well as an individual will be awarded for all of that effort. Also in their team, the practical aspect of the program, which I think is probably the most unique aspect of the way we're running this, is that they have a project. You see, in AP, with this many people who are interested in the program, we simply cannot have all of them do the practical work of like being in a major church mission, like AL, HL, department leader, even national missions. There are many of them in AP, but just putting them in there for that period of time during the program doesn't quite make sense for a lot of them. So the best idea we could come up with to help people to practically apply the leadership that they are learning is that we have a project in which they have to work in a group. There is a group leader, which will let them practice their leadership in that context. And the project is about identifying a challenge that they see within American Providence and working together as a team to identify the root cause of that challenge and take steps towards resolving it. And so, Sasim has talked about in many ways about analyzing, research, study, and also if you want to get something done, you have to lead, you have to work with people, and you need to know the system that you're working within. So about 6 or 7 groups, they all have a project doing things like how can we make American Providence be more interested in Something's new songs? How can we make it so that when newcomers pass, that first 3.5 years is actually solidly done so that people can be re-educated and people know what they need to do within their Providence life after that period of time. Other things like how do we make it so that conflicts that naturally arise in running in both big and small churches, how can we help those things get resolved and not just remain unresolved? Like many different things where each group has thought of something in their environment. I see this as a problem. How can we solve it? And through discussing within their project groups, they come to see, oh, actually, the actual root cause is something else. So if we try to address this by talking with this person or that person, then maybe we can resolve it. And of course, throughout the whole time, Pastor Nathan, myself, and something through the lectures, people are getting an idea of how to put this word into practice in this kind of context. Yes, there are physical methods to solve various problems and challenges that are brought up through the projects, but spiritually too, also we always encourage teams pray, discuss, be harmonious amongst yourselves, be diligent and work hard. These are the ways that things get resolved over time using the methods that something has taught us over many years. Yes, so not only the projects, but also we've had a couple of guest speakers um, for the track one participants. We've had a couple of experts, research and leadership. We've also brought in some material that's acknowledged in the world about leadership and use that all to testify for Sensingame and what kind of great leader he is. We did not just, say there's this great book on leadership, but Sensingame already gives us these tremendous principles that encompass everything that they have in the world that they all acknowledge. And we just testify, like you can see how people think about leadership and also how Sensei talks about it, and reflect on yourself and see how you're also living that way. One of the more exciting things that we did recently, we also brought the head leaders from American Providence all together and had a panel. And so we asked them questions like, what kinds of things did you realize about Sensei in your mission? What kinds of qualities of leadership did you see in Sensei as you were maturing in your faith and providence, so that all of the participants, track one participants in particular, can see, oh yeah, like this is how they became a leader like this. This is how they came to realize about Sensei, and this is the value of running as a leader in providence. So we want members to see that being in leadership is not just an authoritative position or just high pressure, but there's something to gain because you're in the position of doing similar things to what something has done in the past. So this is a great way to learn about something, even if it is that difficult. And all the head leaders uniformly testify that that is one of the benefits that they get out of being in that role, even if it is very difficult at times. So this is kind of what the AP Leadership Program looks like. And yeah, I think we see things to improve. Hopefully for next time, we have many ideas on what to do next. But we're always looking to the heavens on how we can best raise the next generation of leaders, being their hands and feet. These are God's people, not our people. We want them to see something in him, know his mentality, feel his heart, and become like him in every aspect of their life. And this is the best life to live. And so this is what we're doing in the program. So hopefully this covers everything that you might be interested in. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Pre-Pastor Garrett, for a wonderful explanation. I hope it's something that moves and inspires you guys, and I hope it's something that gives you ideas for your country or for your churches on how to run a program in the same way. I am super grateful and thankful that we have these brilliant minds that are running these types of programs and making it new and better and more efficient and effective, right? I hope you guys enjoyed it. Have an amazing and awesome Thursday. Please leave a comment for Pre-Pastor Garrett. He's just doing an amazing job over there. And then we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know. I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star